2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
All right, welcome back, Legendaires. This is Harley Quinn, and I have officially hijacked this podcast. I decided that it was time that I needed to take over, so I knocked Flash over the head and just shoved him out into the time stream to see where he would land. Looks like he might be in 2056. But here today with me, I've brought in a friend, so we've got X-Force 11, Mr. Jeff Gentry. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. I enjoyed getting picked up on the Waverider from Gotham City. It's been kind of a wild experience to get pulled out of my time stream, but it's fun to be here.
Well, we are happy to have you. I know Martin, on a serious note, appreciates you stepping in, and I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I would be sitting here talking to myself.
Yeah, that's no fun. But yeah, it's great to be here, covering another DC show and a fun show. I really have enjoyed Legends this season, and I'm a big fan of the JSA, so it was fun to have those 2 episodes. And so I'm glad to be here and glad to be able to fill in for the Flash. All
right. Well, why don't you say we get into it? This week, we're going to be covering Season 2, Episode 3, entitled Shogun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so usually at the top of the show, we kind of do our quick little ratings, like a general impression of the show before we really dive in. So my rating for this week was 9 secret hatches. And I mean, this episode was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was one of the better episodes that we've seen in the whole series. I think they've kind of hit a groove a little bit. The action sequences were really fantastic. And I love that we got to see Citizen Steel come out so quickly. I mean, I figured once he got injected that we were going to get him. And so I'm happy that we didn't really have to wait long. I think,
yes,
I don't know.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, that might have been a source of frustration for a few others, but I liked it. So, and then kind of the other thing is I think we've got like one of our big bads officially as the Reverse Flash. I think there's some others coming, but at least we've got him in there. And then this secret message from Barry Allen, I really, really want to know what it says.
Oh, yes, indeed. Why don't we get to know? Karen and I were talking last night after Gotham Undercover, and we were talking about how Barry didn't say anything about us not getting to know. Why didn't we get to hear the message? So, yeah, it's frustrating. Oh, but fun. Yeah, it was neat to hear the voice change. Deeper, older sounding Barry. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what it says.
So what did you give this show?
I gave this 8.5 attacking ninjas. So I really enjoyed it. After watching and owning The Last Samurai, it was nice to see an episode taking place with those type of characters. This obviously is much earlier than the Last Samurai movie was, but in as far as time goes. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it, the beautiful scenery that we got to see and just the code of honor that they have. And I will say I do miss the JSA. I think Joseph from CCU would agree that we need a JSA series, but it's been fun the last 2 episodes to see those characters. And I really like how that introduced us to, having Vixen on the team and her character. I really like the development of Ray and Nate in this episode. So I really thought it was a fun episode, but it gave us a lot of good character development.
Yeah, it was a great character development episode. I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. All right. So before we dive in, we have a top secret message that I wanted to play. And it might be from the year 2056. It might be from the year 2016. I don't know. Who can say?
Legendaires. This is the Flash calling in. Did you think I was not going to try to be part of my own show somehow, some way? Oh my god. This episode was near perfect. I could not miss out. But before I get to that, I just want to say, Harley, you take it away. I know you're going to do a good job here. Good luck to you, and thanks for covering this weekend for me. And I believe it is Mr. Jeff Gentry that is with you. I just want to pass along a very heartfelt thanks, Jeff, for stepping in, keeping Harley company, and giving her hand on this. Much appreciated. Listeners, get over to Gotham Undercover if you are watching Gotham and listening to those guys' show as well. So now, this episode of Legends, as I said, was near perfect. I'm going to rate it 9.75 lost ninja Yodas. Get what I did there? 3 awesome references to 3 classic TV movie historical favorites. What an awesome show. I cannot give it a perfect score because my belief is that there's nothing in this world that is perfect. There's always going to be something a bit taking it away from being perfect. So, near perfect episode. I have not enjoyed Legends more than I ever have enjoyed this episode. Fun, humorous, exciting, action-packed, great dialogue, great writing, great acting and performances, fantastic story, complete, everything connected. The fact that they're answering my biggest nitpick. They're going to locations all throughout history. Feudal Japan, it was beautiful. It looked gorgeous wherever they were. The scenery, the setup, the universal translator, the translation pill. Ah, yes. This is what my feedbacks are like to the other podcasts sometimes. It was just a brilliant episode, start to finish. I loved Sara really, really stepping into the role of leader. She's laying down the rules, the laws. She's keeping people in check. She's leading by example. She's leading her team with actions as well as her words. She's an awesome captain already. I'm thinking this is the best role for her to take on. How about that moment with Ray realizing he has to give up his armor and realizing that he's about to do that? Was that not a heroic moment that he is willing to sacrifice that to save not only his team, but to help out the villagers and these people that they've become friends with? Heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, brought a tear to the eye. Phenomenal acting on Brandon Routh's part. Very, very proud of that guy. Citizen Steel, how excited are we to see that? I wasn't expecting that to come right in the beginning that fast. Yes, we've seen those special effects before. Yes, they look like Terminator 2, Liquid Terminator. Whatever, it doesn't matter. This show is fun. That's what Citizen Steel is going to look like. I thought it was fun, I thought it was cool, and I loved the actor, how he played it. Just well done. Of course, Rory running around in a samurai outfit, that was just perfect. And then he swaps himself into a ninja outfit. He's priceless. He has got the best lines in this show.
A lot of good lines.
They're definitely tailoring the writing to him. All in all, fantastic episode. Just had to be part of this. Flashes out.
Nice. Yeah, it's fun to hear his excitement and everything, and to hear him break things down. I always enjoy that, so it's fun to hear that.
I know. I mean, it's too bad for an episode that he enjoyed so much that he couldn't actually get on to do the podcast. I know he was really looking forward to that, but that's all right. We'll move on, and there'll be better episodes. I think they're only going to go up from here. I think they've hit a groove, and so
yeah, I agree.
Exciting. I know he sent me a second message, but I'm going to go ahead and save that for the feedback section. I think it's a little shorter, so we'll just kind of roll that in with the feedback, and we'll use this clip as his general impression. So
nice. Thanks,
Martin. It's good to hear from you. Sad you're not here. All right, so let's dive in. So was that Nate doing the introduction? Because at first I thought it was Ray, and then a couple people corrected me, and on second watch, I think it sounded more like Nate.
The first impression, I was like, is that Ray? And then I'm like, no, it's Nate. Yeah, it is definitely Nate. And I think that's good. I think they're kind of using that intro to say, okay, this is who's going to have some major action in this particular episode. So we're kind of hearing, if you think of it like, a log from the character. So it's them introducing us to what's going on in the episode. So, whereas in Star Trek, you had the captain's log and they're telling kind of their story. So from this point of view, we're kind of with those intros, maybe getting to see who's really recording what went on. So I think it's good that actually he did it, since a lot of the episodes centered around him.
Yeah, that's true. And then I like that they're switching it up kind of, and it is tending to be pretty centric with whichever character that is kind of coming to the forefront for that episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a good way of doing it. So it'll be interesting to see if this continues all season, or if at some point we'll get Rip back, if he'll take him back over. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, to start off, we find out that we have a stowaway on the Waverider. Mm-hmm. And so she has joined our legends on board because a time traveler has murdered Rex Tyler. So I don't know what she was thinking. Was she just going to kind of take people out like one by one here?
Yeah, I really question that. Is like, what are you going to do? You're on a time ship, and you're traveling through time, and you're taking out the people who know how to pilot. And I mean, what's going on? I don't know understand the reasoning. And I'm trying to figure out her reasoning. Is she doing it because she feels that loyalty to Rex, or was there something more involved? Were they in a romantic relationship, or a little of both, and she's just kind of blinded by trying to get answers or get justice for him? I just was questioning kind of her motives on that. And then, okay, she's taking out everybody on the ship. What good is that going to do? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I get, I don't know, that she wanted to kill Mick because I guess she felt that he was the most untrustworthy time traveler. So, of course, he was the one that had to do it. I wasn't completely sure I bought into that, but it seemed like that was pretty much her mission, because she just, like, knocked everybody out. But she was legitimately trying to kill him. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. The only other thing that kind of, like, bothered me was I expected that Sara would have at least kind of like sensed her. So I was a little disappointed when she just stood up and she got knocked out. I don't know. I mean, I guess she was distracted by piloting the Waverider, but I don't know. I felt like she would sense a presence there.
Yeah, I had to do a bit of hand wave that she would be able to take out the entire team, knock them all out without any real resistance. But I'm like, okay, hand wave, let's move on.
I know, I was kind of doing the same thing there. I mean, I enjoyed it, like, it was pretty cool, but I would have bought it more if she had at least just activated, I don't know what a super stealthy animal would be, but just something to give her that extra power. I mean, I know she's incredibly well trained, but
right.
I don't know. I didn't really think she would get the best of Sara. The others I could totally buy into, but Sara, I wasn't seeing that one. But we do get a payoff from this scene. We get Nate, who was previously unconscious. We just see like the steel arm come into the picture.
Nice,
like,
yeah.
Yes, we're getting him already. That didn't even take 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was good to see him kind of steal up there and do that. I don't have a big history with that character in the DC side. I read some DC stuff growing up, but not a whole lot, but came to it more later on. And so when I'm seeing Citizen Steel, I'm thinking on the Marvel side of Colossus, so I'm seeing some comparisons there. But yeah, it was very cool to kind of see that effect and to see that he's awake and see, what's going to happen next?
I know. I was like, okay, well, he's got powers. I thought they would originally take longer through the season to give him that. But then last episode when Ray injected him, I was like, that's what's going to give him his powers. So it was nice to see that just kind of come out in the beginning, and then we got to see how that worked throughout the episode. That was pretty cool. So we get another mention of this Askren amulet, because that's, what the Reverse Flash has stolen, and that's like Vixen's only reference point. So I was trying to look and see if there was anything in like the DC universe, and I couldn't actually find anything. It looks like they've just kind of made it up for the show. Have you ever heard of it before?
That's what I gather too. I had seen some kind of thoughts about last episode, and basically the thoughts were, okay, this is an introduction to kind of magic and a method to use for the show, and it's not anything that they had used before in the DC side of things. But yeah, so it's one of those things that because it's made up, we don't know exactly what it's going to do and how or why the Reverse Flash wants it. And so it's good that way that they throw even the comic readers off and can kind of surprise us and say, okay, this is why it's important. So I like that. I like, that we can still get surprised even if the people have been intense readers of the comic. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because I haven't been as an intense reader of the comic books, and so I like to kind of look and see if I can just get any little bit of information, because they're doing their own spin on it, just like the rest of the shows are. Flash and Arrow, they're all kind of taking their own spin, even on like how the powers originate, and even a lot of times in how the powers are actually used. And so I was like, well, maybe this is another call out. Let's see if there's anything out there, but looks like it's just for the show, so that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, definitely.
Got to be only a matter of time before they figure out it's the Reverse Flash. I'm curious to see how long it's going to take them to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I think Nate is going to have to really use Gideon and look through the time stream to be very observant to kind of see small changes, because you think about how long the Reverse Flash has been doing things.
Oh, I know.
And that he's kind of on top of, making things, work for him, and yet knows that people are going to be watching. So he's going to be stealthy about those things. So it's going to take Nate's skills and background as a historian to look into things to kind of get those little clues to figure out where he is next, and what these little blips on the radar are, so that they can get to him. And that's going to be exciting to see, okay, how do they track him down, how do they actually find him, and then to think, okay, when do we need to best go after him? I like Sara talking about saying, to Vixen to say, we just can't go back and stop him from doing it because he'll go back earlier. We've got to figure out, his reasoning. And I agree with you where you said earlier, talking about Sara just, picking up those skills and being a good captain. I really see her growth, and she's thinking around the timeline and being smart about things. And so I like that she can kind of bring that balance in. But we do really have to figure out, okay, what's kind of his end game and how can we prevent that? So that's exciting, and I'm excited to see how the way they figure that out.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, they've sort of already been on his trail, like with tracking these aberrations, because I think we're supposed to believe that they're following him the whole time. And so I'm excited to see how they eventually catch him, quote unquote. I mean, he brings a whole new element to the show, because he has a whole different view on time and time travel. So
that's right.
So I just want to talk a little bit about Nick Zano and what he's doing with Citizen Steel, because it looks like he's just having a ton of fun. And I think that would be awesome. Like, I feel like his reaction to having superpowers was just completely genuine, and he's like, this is awesome.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I like his character. He's playing the character well. You've got this character that's been kind of insulated his whole life and protected. He's had to live vicariously through books and history and kind of live in fantasy. And here he's been handed, this awesome superpower that, basically has taken away his hemophilia and given him this strength and invulnerability. And he's just so excited about it. And that plays into being inexperienced and needing training. But yeah, he's doing a great job with it. I like how his, he's trying to be historically accurate and to look in things that way. And yeah, Nick just looks like he's having a great time with the character.
Yeah. I've enjoyed his performance so far.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the next thing that we see, and this kind of just brings a little bit of an end to this first chunk of the show where they're kind of on board the Waverider and trying to figure out what's going on with Vixen. And then, something's going to go wrong as soon as Ray starts shooting Citizen Steel and trying to, like, I don't know, make a dent in him, I guess. I'm like, I don't know what you think you're going to do. You know exactly what this is and that he's pretty much invulnerable. And, so of course, something goes horribly wrong and they get sucked out into the time stream. I was like, okay, well, that's one way to do it, I guess.
I'm like, do they not have a training facility on the Waverider? You got to do it like in a cargo hull on the outside of the ship. I mean, I'm like, okay, but I mean, they're just so giddy. The two of them, Nate and Ray, are just so giddy and trying things out and they're not thinking about what's going on in their environment. It's just hilarious to watch them at times.
Oh, I know. Yeah, especially in those initial scenes, they're both just like giddy and just having so much fun with it. But I'm like, okay, this is not the best idea you've ever had. And they've got this new upgraded ship. You wouldn't, they should have put in a training area. They're always training in the cargo hold. I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Need something better, but they get sucked out, and so we end up in Feudal Japan. Apparently, we're in the Kansai region in 1641. So that was totally different, and I'm glad, and I know Martin is super glad that they're using some of these older time periods, and we get to see some pretty cool areas. I like that they brought back the translator pills.
Yeah.
It at least gave some credence to it. We didn't have to read subtitles or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of doing things. You still have the questions. Okay, you've got to take a new one. How long do they last in your system? Because you got to think they've got to be fairly long lasting because you don't want to be in the middle of a mission and whoops, you can't understand anybody.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, but it's an interesting plot device there to use that, and I like the fact that they're using those to kind of say, okay, this is how we're doing it in this universe to rather than use technology from the ship to kind of translate it in people's head with comms or anything like that, or do the other thing. But I like that use of technology, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, it's less clunky. It works pretty well, and especially when they're gonna choose these cooler time periods where people are not speaking English.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, samurais, ninjas. This has just been really fun. And then Nate, I love how he's trying to just cover stuff up. He's like, I sailed here across the ocean. And Masako's like, you fell out of the sky. It's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah. And I love, he's trying to tell her a little of his story, and he's like, I come from the United States, which isn't a country yet, because we're, in 1641. So, I love, even though he's very learned and academic, he's having to put that into practice. And so you're still going to see where he's tripping up and having to do things that way. So it just makes that character real that, he's not doing everything perfect at one time, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and he's got the most knowledge, especially of all these time periods. And he's the only one that doesn't have to use a translator pill, which I will get into a little bit later.
Yeah, we will.
But it was good to see that use of his background, his knowledge, and then they're, I guess, going to introduce, at least just for this episode, a love interest for him. I thought that was an interesting way to do it. I mean, it's a good way to get to kind of know the character a little bit more. It wasn't as distracting as anything from last season, but I'm glad that it was all contained within this episode and it doesn't have to move forward.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit quick to give him a love interest, but I do think it led to a lot of good character development. And I think that's, I kind of agree with you. I really feel sorry for Ray because it seems like Ray is they're using love interest to move his character along.
Mm-hmm.
And I really kind of got tired of that. I'm like, there are other ways to move his character along, but that's part of his character. So I think this kind of opened Nate's eyes to see that there are going to be people that he finds attractive in these different time periods, but he's got to guard himself a little bit more because, if you get thrown in the middle of history that you've studied and you're so excited, you're going to get lost and washed up in that and get, fall for people and get in that. But you've got to think about who you are now and the team you're a part of. And you've got to say, I've got to set up some barriers because I don't want to affect history. I don't, I'm not going to be here forever. So I think it was a good way for him to kind of jump from the academic world to the practical world and start moving that way. And so I was fine with them doing that for this episode, for him introducing that love interest. So
yeah, and like I said, it's going to stay in this episode, so we don't have to hopefully worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
They don't need to be introducing more love triangles or love interests or whatever. They're kind of were worrying me a little bit with what they did with Mick and Vixen, but I think, and this totally just jumps to a random point, but I'm hoping that was just establishing a working friendship and not so much anything else.
Yeah, I hope so too. I see them as a good, foil for each other, that they can have that banter back and forth that, will be fun. Because Mick's used to dealing with, Captain Cold and, with Snart and their kind of relationship of back and forth. And so this can be maybe that kind of, back and forth relationship where they're kidding each other and they're kind of going at each other, but doing it in a fun way rather than, it just leading to romantic tension. So I hope that's the case.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's where they're going with it, but I guess we'll find out. But anyway, so I sort of kind of jumped around a little bit, but the other thing that kind of struck me, especially in these beginning scenes where Ray and Nate are basically, thrown into the ground in Japan, is that they have two distinctly different situations, and you can pretty clearly see the setup for this time period and the conflict that's going to take place, because you have Nate being taken in by Masako's family, and they're like very kind of caring and concerned for him and are like, we have to hide you because this evil Shogun, if he finds out that you're here, it's going to be really bad. And then of course poor Ray, he gets picked up by the evil Shogun. And so he's, being tortured and has his quote unquote armor. I love that they just refer to it as armor throughout the whole episode. And he gets that stolen, and I felt kind of bad for him, but that was a good way for his character to grow. We got to see him kind of under pressure and how he dealt with all of that, and so that was nice to see his growth there too.
Yeah, I like the character growth that they've given him. He's come such a long way since he was introduced, and he's been forced out of his comfort zone, and he's learning and growing. I really appreciate that character growth. And I like this episode because it showed us how he is really taking to heart what he's heard from other people, that it's not that armor that makes you the hero, it's what's inside of you. And, him starting to say, okay, how can I be the man that I want to be without this armor? Because, he's basically been this guy that has used his inventions to make himself move forward and protect himself and, give him the excuse to be a hero. He's used this armor as his way to be a hero, and he's so caught up on that armor that he doesn't realize that he has to really choose to be a hero himself. I mean, we look at Nate's dad. It's not like Nate's dad, what he is just his character. It's not necessarily powers and abilities. And,
Right.
powers and abilities and even armor are tools, and they can be used wisely or they can be used for evil ways, but they're tools. It's the person who wields it, So I think about the whole samurai analogy of you've got armor and swords, and it's who's using it that makes the difference. Because here we have the Atom using that armor for good and using it to be heroic, and here comes a Shogun, and he puts on that armor, and it's just going to be terror for all around him. It's a tool, and so you've got to be a man worthy or a woman worthy to pick up those tools and use it. So I really like the character development of both Ray and Nate in this episode, of choosing to be the hero regardless of, the circumstances, and being wise in those things. I really like the way that they use this time period to move that forward in their character.
Yeah, I thought it was very cool the way they kind of did that. And it was very subtle. They weren't kind of hitting you over the head with it. I mean, they had some good conversations. I mean, there's a later conversation between Ray and, I don't know, we'll call him Father Yamashiro. I don't know if we got his first name, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Itsuru or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So between the two of them.
Ichiro.
Ichiro. Oh, yeah, that's it. And so, so between the two of them, you've got this nice conversation of explaining it's like, the armor, it only gets you so far, it's there to protect the man, and, you're the one, who's going to be the hero. And so I liked that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like we get to see Nate struggle with his powers. When they were on board the Waverider, he kind of, I guess, reacted, and so it just kind of worked. But now that things are kind of, he's trying, I don't know, is he trying to figure out how to use it? And so it doesn't just automatically turn on, there's got to be something that he can do. Although I did think it was interesting, it didn't prevent him from being stabbed. I felt like that could have been a fatal injury in feudal Japan, but.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I'm going to chalk it up to is the fact that the serum is still working in his body and adapting. And so even though he may want it to come on and, react to danger, it's not perfect yet because it's not fully in there in his body and to the stable level. And so I think maybe going forward, we'll see it be more and more stable where, he can actually activate it, and, it might be, protective as well of, even maybe if he was incapacitated, that, it would protect him. I know kind of going back to the Colossus side of things on Marvel that, sometimes when, he's been unconscious and there's a threat, he kind of armors up. But I think we're in that period where, he's basically, a day or two into having these abilities. And so things are still working. And I like the fact that it's not perfect, that, we're not getting to see, things be perfect because, while they are superheroes, they still have issues and faults, and things don't work perfectly every time. And so it's nice to see that they're still quote unquote human and have to deal with those things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty cool. I mean, to me, at first I thought it was kind of more like a Hulk kind of thing, because you know how like Bruce Banner transforms into the Hulk to prevent himself from like dying. So at first I thought that's what it was, but I mean, it looks like he does have some sort of protective abilities, because later the Shogun straight up shoots him in the chest with Ray's photon blaster or whatever it is, which probably should have blown a hole through him.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So he seems to recover from that eventually, and enough time to save the day, basically. That's going to be a fun ride, just to see him learning to master that. I mean, the scenes with him and Ray, those are just so great. I think we've talked about them a lot. Is there any?
I think the neat thing with the two of them is we're seeing really two characters who are so alike in so many ways. I mean, they've got their differences, but in this episode, we really get to see them play off of each other and learn from each other and grow, and kind of they're holding a mirror up to themselves and they're like, oh, that's what I'm like. And so they can hear these things from other people, but really seeing that reflected in somebody else helps them to grow, to say, oh, now I get what they're saying. And I like that kind of, yeah, they are a whole lot alike, but they've got those differences, and that mirroring they can kind of see and grow off of it. So I really like that. So that's really, kind of what I wanted to bring out with the two of them. So
yeah, it is funny because they are so much alike. We've got Dr. Palmer and Dr. Heywood, and they're like they're kind of just alike each other, but yet in distinctly different ways. It's kind of funny.
He broke out, and which was nice to see his abilities there. But yeah, he broke out.
So what did you think of Rory's character development?
Had to leave his suit because the Shogun already has it on, and you see that he knows what kind of danger that can be, but he realizes that he can't do anything about it now, so he's having to leave without the armor. And you really get the realization of him having to say, we're not going to be able to easily get the armor back, so we're going to have to get rid of the armor. And just to see that kind of heartbreak in his eyes, that this thing that has made me a hero, we're going to have to blow up. And it took so long to get it, to build it, to perfect it. And, just he's having to tell Nate how to do that, and it's just killing him to do that. But I really appreciate that he's willing to sacrifice it, because he knows how bad it will be for the people in the surrounding areas if that guy has that type of weapon. So yeah, it's hard to see, but I appreciate that he's willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, and I mean, you almost feel so bad for him because this is the struggle he's had, at least so far this season. He's like, well, that suit is the only thing that makes me a superhero. I don't have special training. I don't have special abilities. All I have is this suit. And it's like, you feel so bad for him. But at the same time, you're like, well, you got stranded somewhere and someone stole your 21st century suit. And that's a really big problem. But on the flip side of that, it's like, he's got the makings of a hero internally. Like he can be a hero. He just doesn't have that super powered ability without that suit. And so I think it'll be cool to see kind of where we go with him from here, because it's like you feel bad for him, but then he kind of comes to this realization and he dons the samurai armor and he kind of comes to the rescue. And that was pretty awesome. I liked seeing that.
Yeah, that was cool.
You kind of should have been expecting it from that conversation that he has with Ichiro, but at the same time, I was just like, oh, I didn't expect him to be in like full samurai gear with this awesome sword, like, and the fact that it's the katana sword. Can we jump to that? Because that was totally cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the little kind of the hints and the nods that we get, because yeah, it is a hint to Katana. The family name is the same, but at least looking at the official DC wiki, that's not Soul Taker.
Okay.
Because Soul Taker and it had a non-powered twin were kind of stolen by her, or maybe it's a different continuity here within the TV shows. But I love the shout out to, we're hanging this lantern, we're giving you the last name, and it's being real subtle. If if you've watched Arrow, you kind of get, oh, that's Katana's last name. So, you're kind of getting that kind of hint. And at least within the DC lore, the sword, the actual Soul Taker, was made in like the 14th century. So it's much older. But yet here we've got this last name, and the whole idea of Nate giving the family sword and telling her to take up the sword and be that defender, and kind of you see that idea passed down through the centuries till we get to Tatsu.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that kind of, if you didn't watch the other shows and didn't know the history, you've got, this noble idea that he's saying, yeah, you can do it yourself. You've done it. You're standing up. And if you do know the lore, you can say, ooh, this starts the lineage. So I love how they work both ways so that, the viewers, on both sides can kind of get into it. But yeah, I really like that. It was a nice kind of, lantern hang there.
Yeah, I know. As soon as he said the last name, he's like, wait, what did you say your family name was again? And he's like, Yamashiro. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I was like, and plus you've got the sword, because it kind of looked like Rei was almost like recognizing the sword. So are we supposed to believe it's the same sword that Tatsu eventually has?
Yeah, I don't know. Within the TV show lore, it may be.
Within the TV, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that's an interesting theory. So we'll see.
I know. I was like, I hope this comes back a little bit more. That would be really cool. Even if they just leave it at this, it's still really cool. It's a nice tie-in. It's another way to establish that arrow. And then, of course, we've got a flash tie-in. Well, we've got multiple flash tie-ins with the reverse flash, too. But they're kind of weaving everything together this year, and I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little worried about how they would be able to pull that off, but
Yeah,
so far
definitely.
They're doing really good. Have there been any Supergirl tie-ins yet? Because I'm not watching Supergirl, so those are probably going to go over my head if they're...
No, I don't think there are any Supergirl tie-ins yet, because I think they're in two distinct universes.
Okay.
And there's been movement on the Flash to be able to get to Supergirl's universe, but Supergirl is not an entity in this universe yet. So I don't think we'll actually get some hints until she actually comes to our universe. And once she comes to our universe, then we may start to see those ripples within the time stream, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah, and they're probably going to have to introduce that on the Flash, because Barry's really the only one that can travel between all of these places.
Right,
Well,
right.
Barry and Cisco.
Right.
But that was cool. Sorry,
yeah.
I got a flashback to the Flash and Vibe opening the breach for
that
the
was
other
awesome.
Harry to come out. That was so cool.
But I really enjoyed getting to know Vixen in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We get to kind of hear her backstory of there were multiple amulets made, and each tribe had their own, and in her tribe it was passed down from mother to daughter. And I just, she kind of took it beyond her tribe, because she was seeing that she needed to, in order to protect her tribe, she had to protect the world at large, and kind of getting out of that tribal mentality. And I really appreciate that we got that background of, this character stepping out into the larger world, because it's a mirror of kind of the Wonder Woman story of, we have these heroes that are these strong characters, these strong women who are kind of isolated and separated, and, they deal some with the outside world, but, Vixen, like Wonder Woman, steps out of her tribe and that small area to step into the larger world to, protect, because it's, those threats aren't just going to be on her particular tribe. So I like that kind of mirroring of those two characters without a direct call out. But yeah, I like this character of Vixen. I like how she's using those powers. I like her growth and her learning from Sara in this episode, and their kind of dialogues and their trust of looking at them being two strong women, and that there's that respect and that growth between the two of them. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, no, it was cool to see. And I will be the first to admit, I was not a fan of magic on Arrow. And I didn't mind the Vixen character they had on Arrow, but the whole thing with Damien Dark and that totem, it just kind of drove me crazy by the end of the season. So I like that her magic, it's not distracting, and I like its use. I like that, she grabs these powers from the animals, and it's used very well in the battle scenes without being distracting.
Yeah, I think that's a hard road to walk. We've got superpower people, we've got people who were standing up and using technology and skills, and we're trying to introduce magic, and I think this is a good way to go. I think that's a hard balance on any comic book universe of how do you bring magic in and make it look believable. They didn't do the best job in the world in the Arrow season last season. I think it could have been better executed.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I really like Constantine's series, and that shows you, kind of magic, but it was a little faulty in how they kind of introduced it on Arrow. So I like this makes a little more sense. Now she's using it in a different way than, say Constantine or somebody like that. So maybe we can start to see some good building of a better execution of magic within this universe without it being kind of hokey. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that'll be nice, especially because if that's what they're ultimately building to with this amulet, which is kind of interesting because it's ultimately the Reverse Flash who's going after it, and he's not historically been like a magic kind of character.
No.
So, yeah, I'm very interested to see what this amulet does and why he wants it. Is there like another big bad this season, like bigger than Reverse Flash? I feel like they've hinted at that, but I can't really get a read on it just yet. So
that makes me question, is Barry's message something to do with this amulet and Reverse Flash, and maybe the Reverse Flash saw somebody with magic abilities wield it and thought, oh, I could use that back in the time stream. It just kind of brings up those ties of where you've got this kind of science-based character of the Reverse Flash seeing, a use for magic. So, it's going to be interesting.
I can't wait for that. Let's see. The only other thing that we haven't touched on here yet is all of the fight scenes that involved like Sara, and especially that last one with Sara and Vixen kind of working together. The choreography was absolutely amazing. And I loved seeing her as a samurai. The use of the sword, it was great. And then that very, very last scene where she kills main samurai, where you think she slices him with the sword and then you see the dagger. That was so cool.
Yeah, I think that shows that she realizes that, they both have training and she's good, but he's better with a sword. So she's not going to be able to necessarily defeat him in the obvious way with a sword. So she has to resort to, the stealthy way of coming in and, of stabbing him with the dagger there. So, it just shows that league training of using everything that you have in your ability, whether it's deceptive or not, to go after it, because that's not necessarily a quote unquote honorable way of doing it, but she knows that that's the only way that she can do it, because she might not be able to win a sword fight with him, but she can win. So yeah, I appreciated that.
Yeah, and something tells me Sarah's not worried about the honorable way to do things.
Right.
She just is going to get it done, not at whatever cost, because she ultimately wants to save her team. And I think that's what makes her a better captain than Rip ever was. I mean, he came around towards the end, but I think she's better suited for that role. So I don't know, maybe we really won't see Rip anymore. I'm convinced he's coming back, but with Sara doing such a great captain job.
Yeah, I think he'll be back. I like his character, but it wasn't just really fleshed out for me, and so I think we may get to see a different perspective on it if he comes back, and maybe he won't necessarily, we saw it, the movement even at the beginning of this season where he is realizing that he can't do this solo. So he's teaching Jax about the Waverider.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Sara, teaching her to pilot. So he's realizing that he needs a team. And maybe even if he does come back, he can be kind of that advisor and still, let her be captain, and see that in a team circumstance, he's better suited to be in a different role than necessarily captain, because this is a whole new world. So that's kind of my hope with that character.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'm like, how does he really fit in if he's not the captain? Not that he's a good captain, but just I don't know what other role he would play. So I'm interested to see what they do with that.
Yeah.
All right. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mick's encounter with ninjas. It was just awesome. That's it.
I really like that. But my question is this. Normally, ninjas and samurai are kind of enemies to each other. They're doing things on different ways. And so I was like, okay, is he going to talk to these ninjas and get them to help him fight the samurai? And then we see this ninja coming in to kind of help, and no, it's not a ninja. It's
him. I know, that was awesome. I don't know what the point of that was, other than the fact that he had been talking about ninjas the whole time. So, I mean, it was definitely fun. I don't know if there was supposed to be more of a point from that, but I enjoyed that he ultimately comes back in as the ninja.
Yeah.
And then Vixen gives him the throwing star. Hey, here's your proof. He's like, oh, awesome.
Yeah. I like Mick a little more this season, but the biggest issue that I'm having with Mick this season is the fact that it seems that we have glossed over a lot of last season where he was this character who knew how to pilot the time ship and knew, had all this training from the Time Masters, and it's kind of like we're kind of glossing over that. I don't know, but we'll see. But I do like the kind of the character and where they're kind of going with him this season of bringing him out of his shell. I mean, I appreciate at the end where he was complaining, but no, we need to go find Rex's killer.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was neat.
Yeah, he's a great character. I like what they do with him. But yeah, you're right. It does seem like he kind of reverted very, very quickly back to that thug mentality instead of, I don't know, keeping a little bit more of that growth we saw as Kronos, a little bit more of that wisdom. But that's all right. I'm still having fun with him.
So do you want to talk about the hidden compartment?
Yes. So it was just such a quick little side plot, but it was probably the most intriguing thing of the entire episode. And so Martin and Jax just going around fixing the Waverider, trying to make sure everything's in tip-top shape. And all of a sudden Gideon's like, yeah, all 36 compartments. And Jax is like, there's only 35. So they go searching for this secret compartment. And I love that it's Martin is the one who wants to search for it. And Jax is like, no, we have to fix the time drive. We can't go searching for these compartments. We need to go save our team. But then they find it, and they find the secret armory. That part has me confused.
Yeah, kind of getting into those two characters. I love that their psychic bond is kind of rubbing off on each other, so they're kind of flipped roles. But I'm like, why this secret armory? What's going on here? Are these, weapons that are only good in certain time periods, and having them fall into, getting lost in other time periods is going to be extremely dangerous? Or what kind of threat would warrant having these secret weapons and, this secret compartment? And, there's all kinds of questions of why that we have this and why it would be hidden. It just all these questions. And it's a lot of speculation. It's like, okay, was this put on hand before, or when was it was everything consolidated here and this hidden? Or, I just don't know. It just brings up all these questions. I don't know.
I know. Yeah, these scenes it was just question after question after question. Why is there a secret compartment? Why are there all these weapons? Where are they from? And then you get the reveal that there's this, I don't know, it looks like a giant voicemail soundboard. And we see a message from Barry Allen, but not our Barry Allen. It's the 2056 Barry Allen with a top secret message only for Rip's ears.
Right. And I love the fact that that system says the Flash, and then it specifies which Flash and what year. Because you got to think about, okay, there's more than one Flash, and you got to specify what era that they're calling from, because you're dealing with a time ship. And I'm like, that's so cool. Just that little bit of that graphic interface of thinking not just a date and time, but which person and which era. So that was so cool.
Oh, it was so cool. And I really want to know what that message is about. I don't even have like a good speculation because we didn't get any clues at all, aside from the fact that it was from the future. So I guess it's probably got to be about the Reverse Flash. But what? 2056. Isn't the Reverse Flash? He's from like 21 something, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from further on, but I can't, I'd have to go look it up. So which version of the Reverse Flash? So
I know. So I don't know. I'm sure it'll all tie back in, probably to this amulet, probably ultimately to our big bad, but it seems like they may not give us that reveal for a while. Unfortunately, but all right. Well, that would bring us to the end of our main plot point section. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything that we didn't talk about?
No, I think we did a good job and hit the points I wanted to talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah, we covered it pretty well. Okay. Well, let's move into Martin's favorite section, the nitpick of the week.
Form of water.
All right. So I'll start with my nitpick. And it was the use of modern American phrases and idioms when Nate and everyone else was quote unquote speaking in Japanese. It bothered me the most with Nate because he was the only character that wasn't using a translator. He actually knows how to speak the language. So if you were listening to Japanese as if it were in English, it would have been a lot more formal. He wouldn't have been able to say something like my jam or cool or your old man. Like that stuff would not translate into Japanese, especially Japanese in 1641. Like it might
exactly.
Like using the translator pills, to me that would almost like bridge that gap. So if you say that idiom, it would find the closest approximation in Japanese and it would say that instead. But he doesn't have that excuse because he's not using a translator.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I can kind of see, okay, yeah, but he's still so in awe of being there that he's going to slip into those things. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying there. It's like, okay, the lack of, maybe them looking at him weird, but, he's an outsider, so they're like, okay, whatever.
I know, but I mean, I don't know how he would even begin to translate that into Japanese, especially in that time period, but whatever. I'm gonna, it was just one of those nitpicky things.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you have this week?
So my nitpick is this. Okay, Gideon doesn't alert the crew on board that there's somebody else on the ship. I mean, I understand that Vixen is quote unquote trusted because she's been on the ship before. But once she starts taking out the team, Gideon doesn't say, hey, there's somebody Vixen's knocking out the other characters, the other people on the team. I mean, she may be a passive AI and only kind of acts and reacts when spoken to, but you'd think she's looking out for the safety of the crew to say, okay, Sara, by the way, Vixen's knocking out the people on the crew. So that's, my little nitpick of do you not program her to, look out for the welfare of the crew? So I don't know.
I know that bothered me too. And Martin and I have mentioned that before. So I'd have to go back and do a rewatch to see if she's always only working if someone addresses her to, but I feel like at least once during season 1, she was reactionary to an event.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only for that one instance. Every other time, because this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and we've said this. And so, yeah, I hear you. That one kind of bothers me too.
Yeah.
Well, now we can move into our quote of the week section, which is my personal favorite.
Shape out an eagle!
We'll start with our funny quotes of the week, and our winner from last week was Chaperone.
Nice. I like that one.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorites. I'm pretty sure that's the one I voted for.
Yeah, me too. That's the one I voted for.
Excellent. So for the funny quotes, we have Screwed.
Gideon, I need you to track down Ray and Nate and take us to their position. The explosive decompression caused us to lose corrective altitude, which put too much strain on the station-keeping thrusters.
For God's sake, say it how it is. We're screwed.
We're screwed.
Lost.
Oh my God. Secret hatch. With a sequencing lock. Clearly, Captain Hunter didn't want anyone getting in.
Maybe he was trying to keep something from getting out. If I've learned one thing from Lost, you don't go opening secret hatches.
Any idiot.
And how does the Shogun even know how to operate your atom suit?
I designed it so an idiot could use it. An idiot does.
An existential crisis.
What an amazing time period. Definitely my favorite. Besides the Old West. Why are you two goofy bastards so happy? You lost your damn suit. The food sucks. And I've got no proof ninjas exist.
Nice. I think I know the one I'm going to choose, but I'll vote on the poll.
Yeah, I know which one I'm going to choose too.
Okay, so for the serious quote of the week, last week's winner was grandfather figure.
That was a good one too. I think I voted for it.
Yeah, I like that one. So this week's serious quotes were assassins.
I have to side with Mick on this one. They're real.
You think there's a secret brotherhood of men trained in the art of assassination?
I hate to break it to you, Maya, but I'm basically a ninja.
Superhero.
I spent half of my childhood in a hospital where it didn't even occur to me to dream about having superpowers. But guess what? I got them. I lost them. Now I really, really need them, and I can't get them back.
This isn't all about you. I worked for years, spent billions of dollars to develop the atom suit. I nearly died learning to shrink. And now I have to teach you to destroy the very thing, the only thing that makes me a hero.
Master Yoda.
I know I have these powers inside me. I just can't figure out how to use them.
Does a child learn to laugh? Does he sit and practice laughing? No. He just laughs.
Do or do not, there is no try.
Exactly. Where did you learn that?
From a great sensei from where I'm from. Yoda.
This Master Yoda is very wise.
And selfish.
What are you staring at?
I've figured you out.
Congratulations.
You act like this selfish meathead, but secretly you're not so bad. You know, you might even have the makings of a hero.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good quotes this week. I mean, all around, the funny ones and the serious ones. So,
Oh, I know.
yeah, I like how y'all do the quotes a week. That's a fun one to do and a fun game to play because Legends just lends itself to have those quotes and with those different characters that y'all to try to choose just a couple out of the episode. You know, I like having the funny and the serious because there are so many good quotes in the episodes. It's fun.
Oh, yeah, it was great. And this week especially, it was really hard to choose. And normally, like, Martin and I kind of split up, like, who's choosing, like, what quotes. And so I just kind of did them all this week. And I was like, having a really hard time. I had initially probably like 8 funny quotes and 5 or 6 serious ones, and some of the serious ones are kind of long, so sorry in advance, guys. But, they're good. All right. Well, we got a lot of feedback this week.
Yay!
So I know. So exciting. So let's roll into our feedback segment.
Mighty Twin Powers, activate!
All right. So our first email is from Killer Frost. So Jeff, do you want to take that one away?
Sure. Greetings all. First off, 2 thumbs up to Patty Spivot for pitching in last week. You did a great job. And welcome back, Harley. You were missed.
Oh, thanks.
On to the episode. I thought it was great. I would give it 8.5 out of 10 mysterious hidden compartments. The fights were awesome. Vixen was easier to like this week, and there was some great teamwork. I find it somewhat surprising how much they were picking on Mick. Yeah. But it's fun.
It is fun, and he's a good sport about it. So
Yeah. They were really stressing his background and it makes me wonder what they have in store for him. Characters really need to learn that secrets never end well. Should Jax and Stein have brought Sara into it since she's the captain now? That's a good point. I feel like they should, but they're like, do we obey? We shouldn't have listened, and should we bring somebody else into it? I don't know. Hopefully they won't take that on too long, but I really thought they should have brought it in because they were feeling guilty.
I know. Especially their reaction at the end of the episode when she's like, so what's your secret? And they're like, how does she know? That was awesome.
Yeah. Back to her comments. She says, I can't wait to hear what everyone else thinks. Until next time, Killer Frost. Yeah, thanks so much. That was great. Yeah, I agree. Vixen was a whole lot easier to like. I think we kind of broke her out of the mold that she was in because she was so shocked because of Rex's death that it shook her up, and she was kind of having to adapt into new ways of thinking, and it made her a whole lot easier to like. So yeah, I like the plot movement there. And yeah, we talked in the episode about how awesome the fights were. So cool to see. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the choreography was amazing, and I agree with Vixen's character. We saw more growth out of her, a little bit more of a dimension. I mean, she was kind of just so hardened last week, and then in the very beginning of the episode, reacting to Rex's death. I mean,
I think we're dealing with a woman who came from a small tribe out into the bigger world. She's been a part of this team that's pretty, ranked and filed and tight, and in a world where she's an African woman in a very different society than we live in today. So she had a lot of things going for her, and so she's kind of breaking out of that mold and learning to be a little more free with who she is. And so I think it'll just provide good character growth along the way.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks, Killer Frost. And we've got a voicemail from the Green Butterfly.
Nice.
Hi, Flash, Harley, and Legendaires. This is your Eye in the Sky Green Butterfly. And I've missed you.
We missed you too.
I fell out of the time stream and fought my way back. And just in time, too, because that episode was amazing. You already know that Sara Lance is my very favorite character. Now she's my very favorite captain and my very favorite ninja. Harley, however you're going to choose a quote of the week, there's so many. Can I just vote for them all right now?
Sure.
That episode was great line after great line. Do you suppose that the daughter that we met in Feudal Japan is an ancestor to the katana girl that we met in Arrow last year? Flash, what did you say on that recording? Come on, you gotta tell us. I'm dying of anticipation. You just have to tell us what you said. Come on, you know you want to tell us. Anyway, my theory is whatever Barry Allen said, in the secret message is what will lead the legends into the crossover at Thanksgiving. This episode gets 10 out of 10 secret messages enclosed in secret compartments. So I know this episode won't be released on Superhero Friday because you guys record on Superhero Friday, but I'm recording this on Superhero Friday, so happy Superhero Friday to you all. Green Butterfly, out. Oh, by the way,
thanks so much.
Patty
It's
Spivot,
always
you did a
fun to hear
wonderful
feedback
job.
from the Green Butterfly.
Thanks for sharing all your opinions with us.
Oh, no. Well, I think the last little part, sorry, I didn't realize it was going to keep going on, Justina. But she was just thanking Patty Spivot. And I also just realized I should also thank Patty Spivot because I did not do that at the top of the show. And you did a great job and you may come back anytime.
Yeah, she did a great job. It's always fun to hear different people jump in and give their opinion. And for somebody who was kind of reluctant to kind of jump in and help, she did a wonderful job. So thanks.
And Justina, let's see, we addressed the comments throughout the podcast really quick on Katana and the Yamashiro family. And so, yes, we believe that was a great relation of some kind to the Yamashiros that we saw on Arrow, and that it's the same sword, which was super cool. And then I had something else that I wanted to respond to in her feedback, and it just totally left my head. But
it'll be interesting. The Flash's message may lead us into the crossover. That's a good point. It may be about the Dominators to say, okay, this is what's happening at this time, and we need your help. So who knows?
I know. I'm really excited for this crossover. I really want to know what that message said. Anyway, thanks for your feedback, Green Butterfly. It's always great to hear from you. Your excitement is amazing. I love how excited you get. Your voicemails are always fun.
And the thing about it is, when she leaves a written feedback as opposed to an audio feedback, and she does that for Gotham from time to time, I'm trying to read that in her voice because she's just so cheerful and upbeat, so that when I'm reading it out loud or even in my head, I'm reading it in her voice. And so, we're really thankful how good feedback she leaves and how cheerful she is. So thanks so much.
Yeah, it's always great. All right, well, we have an email here from Denny, and so I will go ahead and read that. And we call him Sidekick Denny. Denny, you need a real superhero name other than Sidekick Denny. Anything you have a favorite of, any sort of superhero? I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with one for you. All right, so Denny says, "Hi, Wonder Twins." And Jeff, I'm adding that in. It looks like they are rotating monologues for the show after all. It looks like Vixen is going to be joining the Legends this season in their escapades and will most definitely be a valuable member, especially considering she basically took out the whole team by herself. Yes, she did. We had a few comments on that. Nate and his steel abilities remind me a lot of the Silver Surfer and Colossus from Marvel. Glad he is starting to get the hang of getting his steel up. Master Yoda must be proud of him. I didn't think of the Silver Surfer or Colossus, but I'm not as familiar with Marvel. I just thought of the Hulk, but it's not a very good comparison. But he continues, Ray has gotten a lot better in fighting, being able to take down 3 guards and escape his cell, but what is he going to do now that his suit has been destroyed? I think that's the question. But that's my question, and I didn't bring this up in the episode discussion, but it would be very cool to see him move and be able to do the Atom's power more from the comics, where he's able to shrink and grow on his own without having to use a suit. But we'll see. That would certainly be cool. Yeah, because I always assumed that the use of the suit was just their interpretation of it, but I never thought that it might be leading us to something else. Cool. Okay, well, Denny continues. And Sara, oh Sara, she is just becoming an amazing leader and her superb swordsmanship. Rory finally got his ninjas as he wanted and even got proof they existed. So great. What could be the message future Barry Allen had for Rip? So many more mysteries with each episode. Can't wait for next week's episode. Denny.
Nice. Good thoughts.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Oh, I know. I'm excited for next week's episode too.
So the next email we have is from Opal Drake. He says, or is it he or she? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. This is a new contributor. Hold on.
Oh, nice. I think
based on the email, I think it's a male.
Okay. Hey guys, Opal Drake here. New to the feedback thing with podcasts, so be gentle. No issue there.
Welcome.
Had a lot of fun with this episode, but who doesn't love samurai? I mean, ninjas. And if you don't believe ninjas are real, just ask Chuck Norris.
That was great.
Yeah, definitely. I might wind up with a bunch of Usagi Yamamoto collections if I get near a library this weekend. Okay, interesting. So we have background to check out now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's a reference to the ninja movies. I don't know. I'm sorry, that reference went over my head.
Yeah, but now we have stuff to research, so that's good.
Yeah.
Canary is an ace as a leader. No nonsense. In control. I'm afraid Rip might have to accept being a rank-and-file legend whenever we find his Wild West hideout / love nest with Jonah Hex. One episode of Katie Lots heading up the team, and it's hard to imagine it any other way. Yeah, I agree. She's stepped up and done a great job, and that just really shows her character growth over the seasons, from being, becoming Black Canary and going through everything to struggling after her, resurrection and the Berserker Rage, and to becoming White Canary. It just really shows how much she's grown as a person, and being kind of thrust into this role is growing her character up. So yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Oh yeah.
Goes on to say, I'm enjoying Nate / Steele's enthusiasm. Who wouldn't be on top of the world when they had the chance to travel in time, and then you wind up with superpowers?
That's awesome.
Also, I think we saw why we shouldn't animate a half-decent Hulk Super Duper Man steals liquid metal. Terminator 2 style animation looks fantastic. On the other hand, I was beginning to wonder if Vixen had any other animals in her back pocket. Literally, every time I've seen her, including the handful of times watching Arrowless, and she's aped out. Shouldn't she at least call on a fox spirit once in a while? Yeah, that's a good question, like a fox spirit or a panther, or, who knows, something like that, but we'll see. Well, hopefully they'll bring some other ones in.
Well, I think we saw a lion this episode in the
samurai
fight.
Some type of cat. I couldn't tell what it is, but yeah, maybe it looked kind of like a lion, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know. I want to see more.
Rory, as always, was a highlight. The payoff to all the ninja stuff when he finally was attacked by ninjas, and I didn't want to shoot them because he loves those guys. Yeah, I love that line of, don't want to shoot you guys.
I know. Oh, it's so hard to pick quotes this week.
Yeah. Put a big grin on my face, as I hadn't really been expecting that to go anywhere. But I did miss where Vixen picked up the star. Yeah, that's a good question. Where did she pick that up? Did she pick it up from his costume, or did she somehow have an encounter with the ninja? I don't know. But yeah, that was cool. I don't think we got to see that, but that was a cool little, thing where she did that and, surprised him. So that was cool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I totally missed where she got it from, but it was nice that she picked it up.
Definitely. Finally, I wonder how the translator pills handle slang.
Exactly.
Particularly slang that doesn't really match the era. I'm no linguist, but I suspect that's my jam might be difficult to accurately convey in 17th century Japanese. Never mind asshat, konnichiwa, scumbag. However, really needs no translation. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my same complaint.
Yeah. It says, looking forward to the pod. Cheers, and also rawr, Opal Drake.
Well, that was awesome feedback, Opal Drake, and it was really great to hear from you. Keep writing in.
And he's great that he already has a code name, so that's cool.
I know, yeah. Way to go on picking an awesome superhero name. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so next we have our feedback from The Flash.
It's time for feedback. Yes, this is The Flash calling in with some official feedback. But before I get to that, the feedback emails and voicemails that we get actually comes to me, to Cybercast fan email that we get. And for this week, of course, I'm forwarding them on to Harley so that she can properly address them all. So because I see them come in, I just want to say a quick shout out to all of you that sent in female. We got 2 of our regulars, Sidekick Denny and Killer Frost, so Harley will read your emails shortly. Thank you for sending something in, guys. Green Butterfly, Justina, where you been? We have missed you. So I wanted to make sure you heard that from me personally. Such a wonderful voicemail. I totally appreciate hearing that, and I know that Patty Spivot appreciates what you said there at the end, so thank you for that. Hope we hear from you again. I also want to pass along special welcome one of our new listeners going by the name of Opal Drake. And Harley will read that email out as well. I sincerely hope that you email us again, because reading through it, I am quite tickled by your words. You're quite witty and got some great things to say, some great points. So I would love to go through this with Harley. I'm sure she'll have a kick with it. We hope to hear from you again. And thanks for joining us. Welcome aboard. So, Flash's actual feedback, I just have one point to say, which I missed in my earlier recorded message. Barry Allen's message from the future. What was that? What could it be? What was it about? What did he say? Why would Stein and Jax decide not to tell the team? Why would they hide that? You would think that is, with everything they're going through, everything they're learning, and realizing that they're out there on their own on the Waverider, traveling through time, that they should inform everybody of what's ahead for them. I mean, Barry's message was from the future, and it was sent to Rip. They should not keep that secret. So I hope they don't keep it for very long. We'll have to see there. I'm curious what you think will happen with that, Harley and Jeff. But what could the message be about? Here's Flash's theory. I believe it has to do with the crossover event that is coming, I think, towards Christmas time, the four show crossover. And for any listeners that don't want to know what that's about, we did talk a little bit about it in our summer show. So plug your ears real quick. But the 4-show crossover is about these aliens called the Dominators that are coming to attack Earth, and they're bringing other alien races with them. Apparently.
There's our Supergirl tie.
So I have a feeling that because this Flash message was from the future, he's letting Rip know that Earth was attacked and they lost the war badly, and there's not much left, or whatever. Total destruction, whatever it is. He's letting Rip know that Rip, with his time-traveling team, has got to do something. They've got to go back in time or whatever to change something or to help out to stop this event from happening. So, Flash warns Rip, who then starts gathering weapons to fight these alien dominators, and that's why there is a hidden room on the Waverider, which is pretty much an armory full of assault weapons
to
combat the coming war. That's Flash's theory. Thanks again, guys, for sending in some feedback. This is Flash out.
Wow. Thanks, Flash. That gives me more to think about. Yeah, that's great that he got that message and then started stockpiling the weapons. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I love that. I just assumed the message was recent, like it had just happened. I didn't even consider the fact that this message could have been there the whole time.
Yeah, it makes me think, though, it's like, yeah, you got a time ship, so you can start stockpiling that, but there's no urgency because you can still go back to the right point in time. I understand that, but, I'm so stuck in a time point where it seemed like you would kind of want to make that a priority, but I don't know. So, once again, you got a time ship, you can go to any time and kind of correct things, but wow, that's good stuff to think about there, Flash. Thanks for giving that insight to us. Wow.
Know. That was awesome.
Mind blown.
I know, me too. That's exactly how I feel. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we have 2 more voicemails to close out the show, which is awesome as we get a break from reading. Actually, the next 2 are both from Patty Spivot. I have not pre-screened these particular ones because they just came in this morning. It looks like the first one is a thank you for being on the podcast, and then I think her actual feedback will be the second clip that we play. So nice. We're going to go ahead and take a listen.
Hey Legendaires, it's Patty Spivot. I just wanted to message in and thank everybody for all the support and nice comments that you've sent in the last couple days after the podcast. Honestly, I was super nervous and I just wanted to help out, and it was a last minute thing, and I just wanted to, do a good job for Flash and Harley and help out. And I really didn't expect anybody to react or say anything, and I just wanted to thank everyone for being so supportive and being so kind and taking the time out of your day to say nice things about how my first day went on the job. So anyways, yeah, thanks everyone, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what the pros say this week.
Oh, Patty Spivot, you are welcome, and I really appreciate you stepping in for me last week, especially at the last minute. But it's hard when you've got a sick small baby. It's a lot to deal with, so thank you.
Yeah, it's nice. Life comes our way. Being podcast host doesn't exempt us from illness or life events, so it's nice to have trustworthy people that can jump in and help, and so that's always nice. And she did a great job, and I was glad she was able to be there for you.
Yeah, thanks again. All right, well, now we are going to listen to her actual feedback for this episode. So here we go.
Hey, Harley and mystery guest. Just Patty Spivot calling in. I just wanted to say that this was hands down by far 100% my favorite episode ever. They did such a cool job with everything. It was picturesque, it was beautiful, it was fast, it was funny, it was heartbreaking, it was everything. It was just so well done. The camera work during Rory's ninja fight was so cool, and I don't even notice that kind of stuff. I can't believe that poor Ray had to blow up his own suit. Oh my gosh, and good thing he kept the sort of self-destruct button a secret all this time from everyone, because he could have been in trouble. But I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what happens with his character in the next little while. They can do so much with all of the storylines that they've got going. There's so many questions coming up and so many things unanswered and so many things I want to know. So this show is just really, really piqued all of kinds of interest, and I think they're really doing a great job with all of it. It's just, Sara was amazing, Ray was amazing, Nate is fantastic. The whole episode was just absolutely fantastic. And I really am looking forward to hearing what Harley has to say about all of the ramifications of the last few story arcs, I guess they're called, or story twists with the time travel and Reverse Flash and them falling out of the Waverider in the middle of the what's it called? The time drive?
Time stream.
Time something, the big green tube that they fly through. Anyway, can't wait to hear what you guys have to say, and I will talk to you next week. Bye, guys.
Well, thanks for your feedback, Patty Spivot, and my thoughts on the time travel stuff. There's a lot of implications. They're going to probably have to be really careful, but I mean, so far it looks like the Reverse Flash went back in time, killed Rex Tyler, which is why he vanishes before our team's eyes. But that's so far really the only insight that I've gotten. I thought it was kind of funny that Ray and Citizen Steel sort of just fell through the time stream and then ended up in Japan. That was kind of funny. So, but thanks for your feedback, Jeff. Do you have any comments?
No, it was just fun to hear, and like I said, great to hear her thoughts each week, and be able to look at things in a different way and get those insights from her. So yeah, it was fun.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, every person brings kind of like a different aspect, and that's why having all the feedback is great. And then, I mean, last week we had Patty Spivot as a guest host, and now we have you as a guest host this week. So we're getting all sorts of different opinions. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the fun thing, is just joining in the community. I've been around podcasts since the Lost days, and where everybody can kind of lend their voice and their theory, and people play off of each other's theories, and get you to look at things in different ways. I like that aspect of Legends, where you've got all these different people looking at the same kind of circumstances in different ways and reacting to it differently and being able to learn from each other. So, it kind of, applies to the feedback and everybody's insight in the community. So it's great.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, that was the last of our feedback for this week. So thanks to everybody for contributing. And that will bring us to the close of our show. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know, if you want to join in the discussion, you can submit feedback via email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. That's cybercastfan@gmail.com. Please submit all feedback by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays following the show. Or if we push that deadline back, we will let you know, as has been happening the last couple weeks. You can also join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends, and you can follow us on Twitter @Cybercast. All of these details and more can be found on our website, tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com, and you can subscribe there in iTunes, download our episodes, and leave comments about each of the shows. And hey, if you're in iTunes, go ahead and rate us and leave a review.
That's right. Yeah, and it's great because those reviews kind of raise the profile and get other people to notice the podcast, and so that just brings more people in to be a part of the community and lend their voice. So it's great. So please do a review.
Yes, that would really help us out. All right. Well, Jeff, I want to thank you so much for stepping in for Martin this week. It's been great getting to talk with you, and it was so good just not to have to do this on my own.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing, and it's great to be able to come over and give you a hand and actually talk with you one-on-one, as opposed to just listening to feedback or giving feedback.
Exactly. Well, do you want to let people know where they can hear you other places on the interwebs?
Sure. You can find myself and Karen Lindsay at Gotham Undercover on Golden Spiral Media. We cover each episode of Gotham, and so you can definitely find us there each week. I'm also one of the co-hosts on Stuff I Learned Yesterday, also on Golden Spiral Media. A fun kind of Monday through Friday daily encouraging podcast that give you kind of insight that way. And you can find me on Twitter at xforce11.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And yeah, all of those podcasts are great. I listen to both of them and they're fantastic. And Golden Sparrow Media does a great job and they have so many podcasts to choose from. And so we've been long members, Martin and I, of that community, and Jeff has as well. So be sure to go check them out if you're not familiar with them. They have some great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for us this week. Legendaires, thank you for joining us once again. And Martin, the Flash, we will look forward to having you back next week. But until then, this is Harley Quinn, and I'm out.
And this is X-Force 11, and I'm out of here. Do or not, there's no try.